All right, good. Make sure I've got yes, my mic is on. All right, so good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Engineering Science 2110 Statics. Today, we're going to go over the procedures for the class, show you what you need to be successful. One of the things that I really work hard to do is to make sure that everything works toward the end, which you and I have the same goal, which is for you to get out of this class with the grade that you wish to earn. And by the end of the day, you're going to know exactly what the mission is. So that's where we're going to start. So if you look at our screen today, I've pulled up our statics Moodle page. And the first thing about this class is sometimes we'll meet face-to-face. Sometimes we will Zoom synchronously, and sometimes we will Zoom asynchronously. So I've put a schedule together so that you'll always know what the date, what's going on that particular day. Okay, but in any case, whenever you want to link into this class, just use, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn this over to the student role because my page looks a little bit more complicated than yours because I got a bunch of hidden stuff. So I'm just going to trade this out. But whenever you want to get into this class, go ahead and link in through this. Now, the other thing that I want to tell you that's a little bit outside of the classroom experience, but anytime that you want to get a hold of me, I'm trying something a little bit new. My office hours are all available through a scheduling program called Calendly. So it's at the bottom of my email address. So if you ever email me, you'll be able to schedule directly through Calendly at that point. Or if you, I'll post it up to our page as well. But anyway, I have lots of availability of office hours, but Calendly is just it's just more efficient. It goes directly to my calendar, just writes it on there for me so that I know, and it looks for conflicts. And so it's just a kind of a superior method to me just talking to you about when you're going to come by my office. So please look for that. All right, so the first order of business before we start talking about the syllabus is what our schedule is going to look like. Now, this is the schedule up until spring break. And that's 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And basically all of the material that we need is on the Moodle page. Every lecture that I do, whether it's synchronously or asynchronously, will be recorded and put on the Moodle page. So the Moodle page should be completely self-contained except for the textbook, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But basically every class day, for example, we have the class number and then what video you'll be watching, which today is this one. So if you're here, congratulations, you're already knocking out item number 1, and then how we are going to meet. So as you see, today is a face-to-face or Zoom. So like I said, we have 9 people in this class. There are 5 of you present, so there are 4 people. Octavio is watching in real time. We have 3 people who will watch asynchronously. So that's sort of the deal. And those options are always available to you. You are always, there's no harm, no foul, there's no benefit except for the sparkling conversation to coming to class, right? So you get to sit with your friends and you get to talk about statistics versus statics. But aside from that, you get the same credit, however you participate in the lectures. So there's that. So anyway, as you'll see, we only have a few face-to-face meetings prior to spring break. We have a lot of Zoom meetings where I will be on camera from 1 to 2, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The reason that we have very few face-to-face meetings up until spring break is just basically because my schedule has gotten out of control for a number of reasons. And so it's a way that I can make sure that I meet with you. If I am going to be able to meet face-to-face at different times, I'll put it up here. But once again, it's always a choice for you. You're never obligated to be here. So that's the deal. Yes, Shirley. No, I will always be somewhere. I will either be here in this classroom or I'll be on Zoom. Open, you know, I'll have the room open and I'll lecture during that time. So that is correct. And like after spring break, that's going to change. I'll be back quite a bit more. It's just up until spring break. And I'm sort of erring on the side of not telling you I'm going to be in this classroom when I'm not. So in other words, I may be in the classroom more often than this, but I wanted to err on the side of right. I didn't want to have you plan to do something and then turn out, you know, that your plans are thwarted because of my schedule. So, and if anybody, it's not very interesting, nothing that's going on in my life is very interesting. I'd be happy to share it with you, but I'll let you know if you're interested, if we have a conversation. So basically the way that this class works is today we're going to do the intro, and then every other class period there is some item going on. I have recorded videos, and then we have homework assignments, we have a quiz, and then we have a midterm exam. So all of my engineering science classes work the same way. I like everything to be pretty consistent, but we have 1 to 2 homework assignments, then a quiz, excuse me, 2 to 3 homework assignments, then a quiz, 2 to 3 homework assignments and a midterm. Then after midterm, you'll see that we'll have 2 to 3 homework assignments and another quiz, 2 to 3 homework assignments and a final exam. So the homework assignments, you're assigned homework every day, but a homework assignment is the homework from an entire chapter. So there may be 3 or 4 days of homework that get turned in together. And I do that for 2 reasons. One is because sometimes you run into a scheduling issue and you're just running a little bit late. The other reason is that some of this material takes a little bit of time to absorb and sort of get a better idea of what's going on. So you may work on the first problem set and not really, you're kind of doing it algorithmically, you're kind of, you know, just going through the motions. And then when you're doing assignment set 2 or 3, it may pop into your head what's really going on. And so it just sort of allows for you to digest the information in the way that works best for you. But I do strongly recommend that you not wait till the night before the assignment is due to try to do the whole thing, because even if it only looks like there's 11 problems, it's not going to go, it will not go well for you. So please keep up, and then make sure that you're making appointments with me to work with me individually while you're working on the stuff, so that when you have problems, we can sit down together and do that. And that happens either in class or out of class, which is where the Calendly program comes in. So if you need 15 minutes or half hour of my time every day, you just make an appointment and we'll work together to get the stuff done. Okay. So that's sort of the way that it works in terms of getting through the class. So the way that I have the material broken up on the website, on our Moodle page, is every chapter is broken down. We have, in the beginning, I have the textbook, PDFs of the textbook put up here. I don't have the entire textbook put up here. You should buy the textbook at some point, but sometimes people don't have it at the beginning of the semester. So I like to put, I can put 10 to 15% of the textbook up without violating any copyright laws. So I do that so that we can hit the ground running, so that we don't have to worry about not getting stuff done. So when you go to chapter 1, the first thing that you need to look at is at the end, there will be a submit button. And when you see the word submit, one of my students a couple of years ago said it means submit to succeed, submit for success. So when you see the word submit, that means something that you're going to turn in. Everything else teaches you how to submit for success. So when it's time to submit homework number 1, what you'll see, oh, yeah, sorry, I need to switch back, but you'll see if there's a, it says, for example, submit homework number 1, unit conversion handout. So you say, what does that mean? Well, you go back into the material for chapter 1, and you see that what you do is you read through the textbook, you look at the review notes, you watch static lecture number 1, which is what we're recording today, and then static lecture number 2. Then you pull up the unit conversion handout, and this is actually the homework that you will be doing. Now we'll see if it's coming up. This is great. So far, 100%. So, oh, I've just taunted it. Yes, I've just been taunting the system. All right. So some of you have done unit conversions before, but unit conversions are a big deal in engineering, because primarily, does anybody want to guess what does most of the world use for units? The metric system, the SI system. What does the United States use? Imperial. Well, we don't even really have a name for it, because it's not really a system. It's just a bunch of stuff. But Imperial is a good name. I like to call it the US customary system, because everything has arisen out of custom. Okay. The other question is who trades with the United States? Everybody. So who gets to use whatever it is we're using here? Everyone, that's right. No, there are actually 3 countries in the world, in the entire world, that have not committed to using the SI or metric system. One of them is the United States. Does anyone want to guess on the other 2? Myanmar. Myanmar, excellent. Yes, country formerly known as Burma. Yes, Liberia in Western Africa. And Liberia actually uses the metric system. They just, as the last time I checked, they hadn't signed the agreement. So it's really us and Myanmar. And Myanmar is a major exporter of, and some people at this point guess heroin. That is not what I'm getting at. Does anyone know what Myanmar legitimately exports? Teak wood. So they measure teak wood in something that's sort of like a board foot. It's not a board foot, but like there's you get a bonus for having a tree that's larger in diameter because you can cut bigger boards from it. So it's a measure of the value of teak trees on the world market. So it's a little bit different. But I also love units, so I could spend quite a bit of time just getting really excited about units. Just found out of a new unit from my colleague, Dr. Cuddy, and it is called a miner's inch. And I'm going to look into this more, but miner's inch, that's what I said. I thought it was talking about minor inch. She said, no, it's a minor inch. And I think it has something to do with the fact that mining claims often are regulated by the state. And so it's probably a little different from state to state, but we talk about that. Like one of my favorite units in distance measurement is a sleep, which is when you were walking or riding in a train, whatever conveyance you were using 150 years ago, it was how far you could go between the time that you slept. So if you were in very flat and easy terrain, a sleep is longer than if you're in mountainous or difficult terrain. So what do you suppose the town of Ten Sleep is named after? Yes, it's 10 sleeps from the gold fields of Southwest Montana along the Bozeman Trail. So there's all kinds of really weird, funky little things like that. But let me think of another one. Oh, okay. And then I'll quit. I'll just do one more. So does anybody know in the world what the standard unit of measuring petroleum products is? A barrel. That is correct. Does anybody know how big a barrel of oil is? What is the volume of a barrel of oil? Just in gallons. It's in gallons. But okay, so if you ever look at a barrel of oil in a shop, does anybody know how many gallons that barrel will probably contain? 55. That is not the official unit of a barrel of oil. A barrel of oil on the world market, which is abbreviated BBL, which you might notice there's only one B in the word, but it's BBL, has 42 gallons of oil. So I spent a little bit of time looking into this to figure out why every barrel of oil I've seen is 55 gallons, and why a barrel of oil is 42 gallons. And first of all, I wanted to comment, nobody's pulling oil around in barrels. I mean, it's going out in tankers and pipelines, but we're still using this weird 42-gallon barrel. Well, the reason is because back in the old days, the first oil strike in the United States, the first commercial oil strike, was made in, anyone know? Yes, Titusville, Pennsylvania, Captain Drake. And at that time, they mostly wanted it to replace whale oil in lamps. So they don't really have cars or ATVs or side-by-side. So, there was not a huge market for it, but they wanted it for lamps. And so our major people that we exported to were in Britain, it was now the UK. And what would happen is that people from Scotland especially would send us barrels of whiskey. Turns out that a barrel of whiskey is 42 gallons. So we would drink their whiskey and fill it up with oil and send it back to them. And that's why and that's why. So maybe next time I'll be able to tell you stories about the miner's inch. But anyway, so we're going to convert. We're going to convert and convert and convert. And I'm really a stickler for units. If you ever say, how far is something, and you say 37, it's like, that has no meaning. It could be 37 miner's inches. It could be 37 miles. We don't even know. We don't even know what it is. So you always have to have inches or whatever the particular unit is. So the first thing that we're going to do is just a unit conversion handout. Okay, so we're converting inches to centimeters, kilometers, miles, and so forth. We're converting milliliters to ounces and quarts to this. This is a centiliter, but that one's a little bit hard to read. So, and then we have the conversion factors between, because we don't even use the same temperature scale, right? So we have everybody in the world uses what for temperature? Celsius. And what is 0 Celsius? What's the physical meaning? At atmospheric pressure, yes. 100 is boiling point of water. What is the physical meaning of 0 degrees Fahrenheit? Nothing. That's exactly right. What is the physical meaning of 100 degrees Fahrenheit? Nothing. So, okay, so there's like a disconnect with that. But so we convert back and forth between that, and neither one of them is an absolute temperature scale. So we also have two absolute temperature scales. With the size of a degree Celsius, it's kelvins. Anyone know what it is with Fahrenheit? Very good, Rankin. That's right, exactly. Very, very good. So, all right. So we're going to learn how to do all of those things. Although, so that's what this first handout is about. Now, the other thing I want to tell you is when you take quizzes or do homeworks or even take exams, I'll have to alter this a little bit for the exams. I'm a firm believer in referencing your material, which means I don't mean like writing citations. What I mean is you should never guess. You should never go, oh, I think there's 3.8 liters in a gallon. You should never do that. That is irresponsible engineering. So you should always have that information somewhere. So when you do this, I mean, I need to see your work. I don't want to say like, just get your phone and have Siri tell you what the answer is. However, if there is an instance where you have to look up a conversion factor, I want you to look up the conversion factor. I don't want you to guess, because actually, like, there is a moon, it was a Mars rover that crashed because somebody had done the conversion factor correctly. There was a plane in Canada that ran out of fuel because somebody converted between kilograms and liters incorrectly. So you don't, as an engineer, you don't ever want that to happen to you. We're just overkill, just make sure you know what you're talking about. Okay, so we'll finish chapter 1. When you read through chapter 1, you'll see in the textbook, there's no problems at the end. So you'll do this unit conversion handout and hand it in by the 27th. Now, the other thing is I am not a stickler. I'm a stickler for a lot of things. I'm not a stickler for due dates. So this is to get you through in the proper amount of time. The only sticky day that we have is everything before the midterm exam, which is due March 10th, has to be done by March 10th. Please don't try to do it on March 8th, 9th, and 10th. It just will not work. But I'm saying you will take your midterm by March 10th, and you should have all of that material done before then. So if you're one day, I have to be specific, if you're 1 day late or 2 days late, or if you're really stuck 3 days late with your homework, you're going to be fine. Just do a little catch up the next time. But if you start edging toward a week late, we need to talk. We need to get stuff done. But if you turn it in, you're going to be able to turn it in. Moodle's not going to shut off. You'll still be able to turn it in. You're still eligible for full credit. Okay, so keep all those things in mind too. So anyway, so then let's look at chapter 2, which is more typical. There's some videos that you watch. The videos, if I recorded them in class, they have this symbol. If I recorded them and put them on YouTube, they have this symbol. But here's the textbook if you don't have it yet. You have some review notes, and you have this homework to get you started. So this is just some interesting stuff about what's going on that will help you with your homework, which, if it makes sense right now, it means you're too advanced for this class. But this is like, sometimes those are work problems, sometimes there are other things. But basically, when we come down to the submit chapter 2 homework, you'll see that the problem set is listed when you click submit. Okay, so you're obviously going to be clicking submit many times before you actually submit, because you're going to do the first problem set, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Okay, so there's 6 problem sets, but they all get handed in as one file together as homework number 2. Okay, all right. So that will go on. So we'll do homework number 1, which is unit conversion, homework number 2, then we take a quiz. The quiz is on the Moodle page. However, it is not time, it is timed, but it is not proctored. So once again, it's kind of open notes. You want to make sure that because what it's doing is I'm getting you ready for the midterm exam. Okay. But the one thing about the quiz that I do want to point out, because this is messed up a few people. I mean, it's not like messed up like your life is over, but when you come here, you open up this quiz, but you handwrite it on engineering comp paper. Okay, you don't answer it on there. You just pull up the form here, then you write it out, then you scan it in and you submit it here. Okay, so and then, yeah, I always put up notes like if I make a misstep or something like that. Okay, so you submit the work for quiz number 1, then we're ready to go on to chapter number 3. Once again, I have the statics textbook up here. I have some review notes. I have some lectures. Submit for homework number 3, some hints on some of the problems. And then chapter 4, we do this, submit on March 3rd, and then the following week is midterm week. So we'll have different times when you can take the midterm exam. Midterm exam is proctored. So I can proctor you on Zoom, or I can proctor you face-to-face. And I will not just give you one time. There would be definitely a time that's Monday, Wednesday, or Friday at 1, right? But there's also going to be other times. So if you need to take it, some of your classmates have different schedules. They're working full-time, they're in school in another institution. So there will be several times. And I'll have those times listed here. Then you just email me and tell me which time and how you're going to take it. If you're going to take it face-to-face or Zoom, and then we're good to go. All right. But once again, I just want to point this out. Like I said, you'll get to, there's some review problems. This is for the midterm exam. So this is a good sheet for you to follow. And when you take the midterm exam, you're going to be allowed to bring in a single sheet, a formula sheet, or a crib sheet, 1 sheet of paper, this size, 8.5 by 11, in your own handwriting. Both sides, as small as you want. Has to be in your own handwriting because that's part of the process to learn how to do it. So I don't give you a canned formula sheet. You have to write it yourself. But you should spend a lot of time on that, and that will get you ready to take the midterm. All right. So far, do we have any questions? It's all great. All right, super. And you don't want to know anything else about barrels of oil or anything right now, because I got a million of them. So it's kind of a weird hobby, I guess. But yes.
The textbook is where?
Yes.
Where can I find that?
Well, the textbook, you can buy it through the bookstore, or you can, until I don't even know. I know I put up chapter 3. I don't remember if I put up chapter 4 or not. Whatever's on here. Yeah, I just have it through chapter 3. So by the time we get to chapter 4, you need to have access to it. There are a couple of ways that you can find the textbook. You can check some internet sources, or you can purchase it through Amazon, or you can purchase it through the bookstore. So I'm going to tell you in just a moment. So let's take a peek up here.
I checked the syllabus.
I
figured I'd ask.
I hope it better be there, or somebody's not been doing her job. So, all right. So once again, going through the syllabus, then here's our contact information. There's our Zoom meeting location. I will put on our webpage, not on the syllabus. I don't want to alter it for that, but I'll put my scheduling program so that you can schedule appointments with me. And I hope you will. I mean, I spent time working with people quite a bit, so it's like, if you need to do that, I want to do that. Okay. So the textbook is right here. There you go. Vector Mechanics for Engineers Statics. You can have either the 11th or the 12th edition. It's by Beer and Johnson, McGraw-Hill. The reason you can do the 11th or 12th is they quit making significant changes somewhere along edition 7. And so you will be fine if you use 11 or 12. The only thing I ask is that when you do the problems, don't mix and match. If you have access to 11 and 12, don't go, oh, I like this one 11, this one's easier. You're going to get the complete amount of information and skills that you need as long as you stick in one textbook or the other. Okay. So the textbook cover looks like this. Now mine is a combination of the 2 classes, statics and dynamics. Dynamics book The dynamics textbook actually starts at chapter 11 because the first 8 to 10 chapters are statics. So you can buy them separately, or if you're going to take dynamics, which most of you will, you can buy them together and maybe save yourself a little money, unless you're going to take dynamics somewhere else, and then you may have a different textbook. So another kind of cool thing about engineering is there are several textbook companies, several authors who've written textbooks for engineers, but it's not like in the humanities. I mean, if you look at humanities, it's like there's just bookcase after bookcase of stuff you can talk about, romantic poets or whatever. In engineering, there's probably 3 or 4 books that constitute the classical approach to statics, and so you're not really, there aren't many choices, but Beer and Johnson, and I think they're both actually dead now. They've been a lot, this textbook has been around for a long time. When I was in college many years ago, I think I took it from the 2nd edition or maybe the 3rd edition from Beer and Johnson. But back then, text editions lasted a lot longer and didn't really change them unless there was something extraordinarily significant that they had to change. Now they change them, and book companies buy up the old editions so that you have to buy the new editions. And so it's kind of like that. That's why I do 11 or 12. But there are several others. There's one called Hibbler that they use a lot at University of Wyoming. There's a couple of other textbooks that are still classic. So if you're going to go somewhere else to take dynamics, you may not want to bet that you're going to get the same textbook. So you might want to buy statics separately from dynamics. If you do want to, there are a couple of places I would consider looking if I wanted to get an e-copy. There's a website called, let me put it up here. I'm going to just write this. There's a website called scribed.com, and it's a subscription site that you can get a free trial for this. And Scribed bills itself as being the Netflix of printed materials. So I like that. Another one that has almost everything on it is called the Internet Archive. And you can check out books on the Internet Archive for an hour for free, and you can do it over and over and over again. So that's just a couple of suggestions. But if you, my biggest suggestion is just buy the book, either e-copy or in terms of written text, whichever you prefer. All right. So at this point, do you guys have questions for me? How the class is going to run? Okay, so Sterling, you had asked me earlier if I was always going to be in here 1 to 2 o'clock, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And like I said, the answer is no. The answer is also that this room will be available to you Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 1. So if you like to come in here and study, or if a couple of you want to do work together, watch my videos on the big screen, because what a thrill that will be. And so you'll be able to do that as well. So this room's always available to you during that time. Okay. Now, when I started talking about it, I said I'm not a stickler for due dates. I'm really a stickler for how your homework looks when you send it in to me. Okay. And doesn't mean you have to have good handwriting. I have had students. I had one kid, and he's so brilliant, and I will not mention his name, but I swear he looked like, his handwriting looked like somebody held a gun to his head, and he was right. I mean, it was like, it was very bad, but I can do that. But what I mean is the format of how your homework looks. So to facilitate this and to make it not be a mystery, here on the introductory material, I have a homework template. And this is how I like to have your homework. So you can also probably see why, if you have 15 problems and you're in math, been in math class, you're going to knock out 15 problems an hour. You really can't, because they all have to look pretty spectacular. The first thing is I really want them to come in on engineering comp paper. I'm not addicted to the green, but I like the little squares. It's actually called Quadro Paper. But everything that you ever turn in engineering, including some of the stuff that you'll do preliminarily before you start doing computer modeling, is all going to be on engineering paper. So if you have access to a different kind of quad paper, you're welcome to use it, but the green paper is like industry standard. Also comes in blue and buff, but green is like the, yeah, like the standard. So, one thing is, if you buy a tablet of this, you can get it on Amazon. The other thing is, I do keep a big fat tablet of it outside my office. So my office is 126 in this building just down the hall, inside of 125. Outside of 125, there's a desk and there's a thick tablet of engineering comp paper. If you want to rip off 10, 20 sheets of it and take it, please don't take the whole thing, because then your classmates will not have any engineering comp paper. So, but one of the things I like to do when I have money and budgets at the end of the school year, I like to buy engineering comp paper because I know that we will use it. So it's available too. But basically you want to have, you want to put the due date, not the day you did the homework, but the due date of this homework assignment, the course number, ES 2110, chapter or others. You might put chapter 1, or you might put homework 1, or you might put unit conversions. Your last name and your first name, and that goes on every page. And then the page number out of how many total page numbers. So you're not going to know that total page number until you've done all 6 of the problem sets, right? And it might be some horrifying number. It might be 36. It might be 41. So whatever it is, there you go. So when you get done, clearly state what problem you're working on. Do the steps. Put your answer with the proper number of significant figures or close to the proper number of sig figs. If you're one off, it's okay. If you're measuring something to tenths of inch and you put hundreds, I'm okay. If you put 10,000ths, not so much, because it indicates that you don't really understand what the number means. And that's what we're getting at in engineering. What do the numbers mean in the real world? Okay, so then oddly enough, and students have said, you're so picky in it, you don't even care if I start at the top of the page, and the answer is no. The next problem can start wherever the last problem left off. Just put something to separate them, like a line. And when you have your answer, which is the number with units in the proper number of significant digits, put it off to the right or separate it somehow, double underline it, circle it, put a box around it, something so that it like stands out from the rest of the work. Okay, now the thing about this is, what I'm really getting at, I tell students, when you do an engineering problem, it's really like an essay question. You know, I want to see how you work the problem. And this is less, I spend less time on it on homework than I do on your exams, but I spend a great deal of time on the exams going through your thought process. So what that means is you can have an incorrect answer and still get the vast majority of the credit if you've thought through the problem correctly. So one of the things about engineering is, quite frankly, the answer is not the whole thing, right? I mean, we have to justify ourselves. We have to justify ourselves visually, mathematically, and using English or whatever language we're, you know, whatever we're used to speaking, but the spoken word, the written word, and math, and also pictures. So that's the process. So part of what we're doing in here is getting you ready for that. So when you're an engineer, you're going to be explaining to people what you've been doing, and you're going to be explaining it to people, quite frankly, who do not understand. So, you know, I was teased, but one of the things that I did before I started teaching here, I did and I really like this kind of job, but I have my professional engineering license. So I worked as a consultant, and one of my consulting jobs is I worked for lawyers as an expert witness, testifying about basically flow regimes, how water moves. And so I tell people I've made a great deal of money explaining that water runs downhill, right? Because everybody knows that, but when it gets right down to it, it's like, well, does it still run downhill underground? Yes. Does it still run downhill? If there's barriers in the way, yes, it just goes around the barriers. How does it get into your basement? It's downhill. That's, you know, so I mean, that's the kind of a thing that you have to do. So you draw pictures and you draw circles and you put Bernoulli's equation and you do all these things, but explaining yourself is a huge deal. So that's what you get to do. And that's what's exciting about engineering. We get to know how this world works, this whole world, not everything, obviously, but you know how, when you look at something and you think, why do they do it that way? Well, you're going to develop the skill set that you can find out why they did it that way. So that's pretty exciting. So, so those are the things that we're getting to today. All right. So any questions for me? Yes.
Well,
Quad paper, it's Quadro. Let me write it out here for you. Yeah, it's called, I'll put the two names of it down. It's either called engineering composition paper, or it's called Quadro paper. There you go. So that's what you're after. But like I said, what I really like are the little squares. This is what, oh, and the other part is, this is the front, this is the back. You only write on the front. So, I know, you have to waste all that paper. So, one last thing I was going to show you, if you really get into a bind, I have put a piece of engineering comp paper, front and back, on here. So if you print this off and do your homework on it and scan it in, I will never know that you didn't have actual Quadro paper. So, color printer. So,
Black and white.
yes, well, I wouldn't know, would I? See, that's the deal. So, anyway, so no questions? All right, so, how about you, Octavio? Do you have any questions? Are you doing okay?
Yeah, everything's fine. I got
Okay,
everything.
and I think my speaker's not turned up, but I think, give me a thumbs up if you're good. All right, good deal. Thank you. So your weather looks a little better than our weather, I have to say. So it's very pretty there. So anyway, all right. So basically, we're going to get started with this. Like I said, the basic way to succeed. Oh, I didn't tell you the rest of it, how you succeed in the course. Okay, here's the percentages. So you'll turn in homeworks. The homeworks are worth 10% of your grade. You'll do the quizzes. They're worth another 10% of your grade. Midterm exam, which is 2 hours proctored, is worth 40% of your grade. Final proctored is worth 40% of your grade. So everybody has to take the midterm. Everybody has to take the final. Even if you're a rock star, it's just going to be easier for you. You'll also have 2 hours to take the midterm and the final each. You don't need 2 hours, but I want to make sure that time is not the limiting factor. And I want to make sure everybody has a fair shake. So that means I won't let you schedule an appointment unless you promise me you have 2 hours to take your midterm and your final. And if you go over a few minutes, I won't hold it against you, but I won't let you go over like 10 or 15 minutes because it's not fair to your classmates. Because everybody has to have the same playing field. So, all right. All right. So, well, it's good to see everybody here. And like I said, it's going to be a crazy 8 weeks. So, and like I said, if anybody's interested, I'll tell you, but it's even more boring than talking about minors, inches, everything that's going on in my life right now. But I won't be around a lot, but I'll always be available. So even if I'm physically not here on campus, I will be available to you on Zoom, or you can text me. Let me do that as well. I'm going to write my phone number down. I think it's on my syllabus, but if you call me on my office phone, it will just forward to my cell phone. But if you text me on this number, this is just my regular cell phone number, we can get you squared away right away. Don't leave me a voicemail because I haven't picked up my voicemail since probably any of you were born. So please don't do that. So the chances of me actually getting that message are slim. So, all right. So thanks for being here, everybody. I'm going to shut off the recording. Now, Octavio, I'm not going to, you'll still be here, but I'm just going to shut off the recording. So just a sec.